82. Episode 82. Uh-huh. There we go. $82. Dear folks, happy Independence Day. Join me now for the 82nd episode of Thinker's Frequency. Independence Day. And there we are. Yeah. Sounds good, sounds good. Where is the second episode? Yeah. Beautiful. Sent on WhatsApp. I'm live on LinkedIn, live on YouTube. I'm live everywhere. Happy Independence Day. Good morning, Mr. Tiwari. Happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day. Can you hear me properly? I hope you can. And if you can, we will begin the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. We deserve it, right? Yes, we do. It's so amazing that we do it every day. Do it every day. If you can hear me, say yes, and then we will begin the show that we... Yes, little low on volume. That's because I'm speaking very slowly. Let me check if the mics are okay. 1 second. The mics should be okay, right? Yeah, the mics are okay. It's just me. All right then. If you can hear me, we will begin the show that we deserve. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition? The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does. As it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I'm just having hot water with some black pepper in it. And here we go. Oh my god. Sublime. Beautiful. Let's do it again. Healing. It healed me. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Today is India's Independence Day. A very important day for the country, of course. And we have a lot to be proud of. We have a lot to be grateful for. We have a lot to be optimistic about. And amidst a lot of those things, we obviously face a lot of problems. But this is not the day to talk about problems. This is the day to talk about realities. And the reality is that problems are temporary. And people, problematic people, just don't matter. As we discussed, the future of a company, the future of the country, the future of anything, it doesn't depend on the majority, the populace. It depends on the leadership. It depends on the good people, the great people. It depends on very, very few people who are sincerely and honestly looking forward to driving change, positive change. People who believe in forging destiny. Those are the very few people who matter. And just like a handful of those people change the entire course of history, right? So it doesn't matter that we have problems. It doesn't matter if our populace has problems. It doesn't matter, if we are facing some sort of issues, because all we need is just a very few set of people, very few number of people who will just turn everything around. And we are amongst those people. We are working hard. We're all entrepreneurs here. We're all people who are doing very well in our careers. We are working hard. We are creating things. We are here talking about the future, right? That's what it is for. Thinker's Frequency. What time is it? It's 8:11, but most importantly, it's the time to look into the future. So we are important, and God willing, we'll change everything for the country. With that out of the way, happy Independence Day, and let's begin. I talked about seeing the future. I have always talked about that margin call dialogue where he says, you know why I get the big bucks? It's because I know what the music is going to be a day, a week, and a month from now, right? And that's why I make all the big bucks. So if you remember, when US laid the tariffs on India, a lot of people had very different readings of the situation. You remember that, right? Media was abuzz. Media was shrieking at the top of its voice, talking about how US has messed with India. And everywhere, even on social media, these so-called content creators were all over how India is national pride and this and that. And the only place where you must have heard what the real issue was probably Thinker's Frequency, or basically my articles, right? I was amongst the very few people who said it's not about India, it's about Russia, right? It's a temporary and indirect way of arm twisting Russia into stopping the war, right? Now, listen to what Trump says yesterday. Steep tariffs on India for buying oil got Russia to the bargaining table, right? Quote unquote, when you lose your second largest customer, India, and you're probably going to lose your largest customer, China, I think that probably has a role, right? He says that the tariffs on India got Russia to come on the table. So that's what he said. Uh, Everything has an impact, Trump said on Fox Radio when asked move influenced Putin's decision to meet him. Secondary tariffs against India essentially took them out of buying oil from Russia. Certainly, when you lose, it's gonna be. I believe now he's convinced that he's gonna make a deal. So, all that chatter on social media, all that bullshit, all that chatter on the news channels, everything. One side, our reading of the situation on the other side. And that's what's happening. Mr. Putin has said that US, in his opinion, is making energetic and sincere efforts to stop the Ukraine war. So today we are going to have that discussion. Trump says it's going to be a big meeting, and this meeting will be between these two guys, like Trump and Putin, and then Zelensky is gonna call in. He says there's gonna be an exchange of land, so he's already looking at conceding some Ukrainian land to Russia, and there's gonna be a lot of negotiations. But I think it should work, and if it doesn't work, it's gonna be bad. So he's very nervous. Trump is very nervous. He ought to be. Putin has a lot of cards right now, and as we said. Putin has come to the table because there's a lot of weight which India's buying capacity does. So once again, everybody else on one side and us on this side. So we're just 10, 12, 15, 20 people who watch Thinker's Frequency. We stand vindicated, validated. That should be good. Moving on. Google pledges $9 billion to expand AI cloud infrastructure in US. Once again, a lot of investments coming on from American companies to America because of all the tariff pressure. So Google is amongst the large list of companies who are pledging a lot of money. $9 billion in Oklahoma over the next 2 years to expand cloud and artificial intelligence infrastructure. So a lot of dilly-dallying, a lot of, mollycoddling, let's say, towards the administration. Moving on. Trump's 15% China cut may not worry Nvidia much. There's a report, we discussed this, right? That Trump said, can you give me 20% of whatever you're selling to China? And they say, can you make it 15? And that was the deal, right? So people say that 15% of revenue share to the government is a lot of money, but then they say China is just 13% of Nvidia's market, and that's just chump change, right? $700 million a quarter. That's like $3 billion a year is chump change for Nvidia. So it's not going to be a lot of money which they give to the US government, but it signals a sort of neo-interventionism, neo-business interventionism. Business interventionism always existed. Of course, as we said, every business decision is the result of political will. But this is a new sort of interventionism. When the government says, if you are selling to our adversary, just pay us money. This is a very, very new thing. And in many ways, it doesn't make sense, right? But it is what it is. Speaking of things that don't make sense, US inflation, producer inflation, got at a 3-year high on rising goods and services prices. So a lot of these food prices have gone up because of the tariffs, and these prices going up has led to the inflation rise, which has sort of which is sort of looking good for Jeremy Powell. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember this is an ongoing story where we discussed how Trump wanted Fed to cut US rates, and the Fed chief Jeremy Powell says we're going to look at it in a non-political way. And Trump called him, and I'm quoting, a moron, a slow guy, a stupid person, and so on and so forth. And he said inflation is in control, investments are coming in, we need the rate cuts to happen. Scott Bessent just yesterday said Fed should cut like 1.5%. However, inflation numbers just came out and they're surprisingly up. So that's a problem. 1.4% surge in food prices accounted for 40% of broad increase in the price of goods. So there was a lot of talk like you've laid tariffs on bananas, but you don't grow bananas. So what are you gonna do? Tariffs are very important. Tariffs do a lot of work when there is a chance of replacing the supply, replacing the source with something here, right? But food doesn't make sense as far as that is concerned. So you just lay it off. Some inflation rise. Jeremy Powell looking good, and Trump ought to be embarrassed, right? But the beauty is that Trump is never embarrassed. He's never embarrassed. So, in Hindi, we have a saying for this, right? Do you know the saying for this? The guy who never gets embarrassed? It's Nang Bade Parmeshwar Se. It's like, jo nanga hai bhai, usko nobody can win against that guy, right? Nang Bade Parmeshwar Se. You can't fight somebody who has like nothing to lose. Nang Bade Parmeshwar Se. And that's the attitude that Trump brings on the deal table, that I don't care, right? He starts going for the kill, no matter who's the opponent. So that's that. Let's see what happens today. Very important day for us. Moving on. After 18 years, S&P rates India higher for resilience. So S&P, Moody's, CRISIL, all these people are ratings guys. So they rate companies, they rate economies, they rate financial institutions. So S&P after 18 years has given an up rate to India. It was triple B negative earlier and it's triple B now. So it says that India has a better chance. India's economy has shown remarkable resilience, due to which it reserves the right to get rated better. And what these ratings essentially do is that they are indicators to the financial world on how to, let's say, lend and at what prices to lend to an economy, or right, to an economy's constituents. So let's say if an economy is rated very well, that means that the chance of it defaulting on its loans, or delaying its payments is high, right? So you will rate it low. So what that means is the interest rates for that economy will go up. When the interest rates for that economy will go up, it won't be able to borrow a lot of money. It's similar to the CIBIL score, but for a country, right? So after 18 years, big fillip for India amidst tariff and economic upheaval. So a lot of good things are going to happen for ECBs. ECBs are external commercial borrowings. External commercial borrowings are essentially what we discussed, right? When companies start taking direct bond sales. So ECBs are going to get cheaper, and that's going to be very good for corporate borrowing. So Indian corporates are going to be looking at slightly better rates for external commercial borrowing. So that's interesting. Upgrade to sovereign rating of triple B with stable outlook seen lifting foreign inflows. So this is obviously going to lift the foreign inflows. A lot of lending activity is going to happen. So that's a pretty good news to come on on the Independence Day. Very nice. Moving on, corporate scorecard hits multi-quarter lows. So these people essentially analyzed all the quarterly earnings, thousands of companies, and they found out that corporate scorecards like India Incorporation has lackadaisical or tepid earnings, multi-quarter low. Revenue rise lowest since September quarter 23. Profit growth weakest in over 2 years. So there's growth still, but the growth has slowed down and it's gone weaker. And the sections are, of course, what we've discussed. Uh, the poor showing was a lot of sectors that we've talked about a lot, was offset by cement, chemicals, construction, hospitality, and alcoholic beverages. You know, investors are seeing monsoon as a uh, revival force. So we've discussed how these two quarters are very important, and the fact to be known is that a lot, you know about front loading, right? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know about front loading and how uh, it affects a lot of things. There's something called deferred purchases as well, right? There's something called deferred purchases. So when an economy essentially stops buying for a while, those deferred purchases start bulking up on these essential months, let's say festive seasons. So a lot of this might just be looking at bulking up and deferred purchases uh, in the next 2 quarters, which is what we see happening, which is what I see happening. By the way, uh, auto companies had an overall decline. So we've discussed that the July quarter essentially had a decline of 0.2%. Two-wheelers did well, three-wheelers did well. Three-wheelers grew 17%, two-wheelers grew like 9%, but four-wheelers essentially declined. So we've discussed a lot about this, and this could also be looking at some sort of flip in the next couple of quarters. So you never know. You never know. Moving on. Tata Sons AGM congenial amid Shapurji Palanji exit group talks. Well, we've discussed that. Uh, so as India is meeting the BRICS summit, guys, it says de-dollarization not on its agenda. However, we've got to give the BRICS summit, BRICS currency a shot. We want to try it out, right? This is basically an oxymoron. So if you try out the BRICS currency and if it gets any scale whatsoever, it essentially means de-dollarization, right? So this is an Indian way of negotiating with US, that if you do not want an accelerated decline of the dollar, and if you don't want problems in that direction, maybe it's not a good idea to talk in that direction, right? So India says de-dollarization not. India and Brazil have been hit with 50% tariffs. So that's very important. How Brazil has been coming to India with the idea of essentially counter the 50% tariffs that both the countries have faced, right? Brazil for different reasons, India for different reasons. You know why Brazil got tariffed, right? So Brazil's ex-prime minister Bolsonaro was a serious right-wing guy, and of course Trump is right-wing. So Bolsonaro started getting lawfared by the current Brazilian administration, which is like a left-leaning play, and he started getting a lot of cases against him, right? Political lawfaring, it's called, when you're just like, when you're not a true democracy, what do you do is when you start going legal on your adversaries, on your political adversaries. So there's a very good line by a Russian author, and he said, "For my friends, nothing. For my enemies, the law." So that's the lawfaring thing, right? That's how they do it. So those people started ganging up on Bolsonaro, and Trump essentially said that if you don't stop the lawfaring against your political rival, we're gonna have the tariffs on. Now, which doesn't make sense, right? A country is democratic, or let's say anti-democratic measures are their own problems. You should not be intervening. But Trump said that this is not cool. Moving on. Bisleri will always remain a privately held firm. So there's an interview by the Bisleri Scion. Uh, she is, the lady is called Miss Jayanti Chauhan. She's the daughter of Mr. Rakesh Chauhan was his name. He's a pretty legendary person. Yeah, Ramesh Chauhan. So Mr. Ramesh Chauhan is the founder of Bisleri, and he's a pretty legendary figure. He also started Thumbs Up and Gold Spot and one another Limca. So he was the person who actually began founded the Thumbs Up brand, the Limca brand, and Gold Spot, which he eventually sold to Coca-Cola, and he retained Bisleri, and Bisleri is now like a almost a $10 billion company, right? 5,000 crore revenues and so on and so forth. Bisleri was going to be taken over by Tata. So Tata, in a bid to essentially beef up its consumer play, what it was looking at was buying Indian brands, like big Indian brands. So one conversation was around Bisleri. It was supposed to be a very big transaction, some $6 to $10 billion, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong. And then another transaction was Haldiram's. That was almost like a $10 billion transaction. So Tata was supposed to acquire these two companies. Both of these companies essentially, uh, both of these deals fell apart. Bisleri didn't go forward, and neither did Haldiram. Now, Haldiram is maybe looking for an IPO. It's raised like $1 billion from private equity companies. It shopped around, got the best deal, and so did Bisleri. So Bisleri is not looking forward to going public. The lady says, Jayanti Chauhan says, as far as an IPO is considered, we'd never do it. We always want to be a private listed company. Now, this might seem like counterintuitive to people. People might say, like, why would she say that, right? Going public is so cool. Your shares get listed. The company becomes a part of the financial conversation of the nation. There's an infinite supply of capital. You can keep raising money. Why would you not go public? That's actually, for this, I was very blown away by a book called Bloomberg by Bloomberg. It's the autobiography of Michael Bloomberg, the founder of Bloomberg. And Bloomberg is essentially the fulcrum upon which the entire financial world rests. Okay, the entire financial world is glued to the Bloomberg screen. Okay, so Bloomberg knows everything about finance, everything about going public, everything about public markets. It's essentially the bedrock of the public market, right? The Bloomberg machine, it costs like $12,000 a year, and they did a survey. Let's say if we take away your Bloomberg machine, how much would you pay us back, right? How much would you be willing to pay if we took your Bloomberg machine away? And you can get anything, right? The price of Bloomberg is $12,000. Guess what people said? People were like $80,000. So that's how valuable Bloomberg is. And when talked about going public, Mr. Bloomberg said, we'd never want to go public, because going public is a lot of scrutiny, it's a lot of hassle, it's a lot of pain in the ass. We'll never go public. That was Bloomberg, and that sort of blew my mind, right? That sort of really blew my mind that, whoa, if Bloomberg is saying, Mr. Bloomberg is saying, I have a lot of respect for that person, by the way. It makes sense. And then, somebody else also said that. Who? In Indian startup ecosystem, Mr. Nitin Kamath. Now Zerodha is, of course, the window to the Indian public markets, and he knows everything about going public. He knows everything about a public company. He trades public companies. That's what the two brothers did before Zerodha became such a big company. Nobody who knows ins and outs about going public would ever want to go public unless absolutely necessary. So I'm happy that these people have the money, and They're looking at premiumizing themselves. They're looking at some sort of starting new brands, glass bottles, spring waters, and so on and so forth. So all the luck to Bisleri. Moving on, July auto sales in neutral. Companies hope for festive return. 0.2% decline in passenger sales. Three-wheelers 17%, two-wheelers 9%. As I told you. Uh, Hotels raise stake on pandemic era bets to ramp up revenue playbook. From home deliveries to boutique stays, companies expanded to new segments during COVID. So hospitality industry is really looking forward to some sort of fillip, and they're looking at heated momentum to continue. And with that, they're actually investing a lot. So we discussed about uh, IHCL, Indian Hotels Company Limited, the Tata company. They were looking at, they bought a couple of hotel brands, right? And then we also talked about ITC, which was essentially looking at, you know, expanding its hotels. And that's going on, you know, Tree of Life, ITC, IHCL, and all of these people are essentially looking at new avenues to sort of, you know, uh, expand revenues. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how we also talked about new age clubs, right? Now, hotels are not really clubhouses, right? Hotels have not been in the clubhouse business uh, in general. I mean, as a thumb rule, they've not been in the clubhouse business. But we had a case study where we discussed Quorum and these people, and hotels are also like five-star hotels are also beginning their clubhouses kind of businesses, and they're sort of looking at them very seriously. So this is what the report says. You know, 5-year strategy roadmap, IHCL new business vertical is set to deliver a CAGR of 30%. So QSR, food delivery, and so on and so forth. Moving on, big deals keep office space vibrant. As we talked about, GCCs are really pushing it. GCCs are setting up in India. Last year we had like a GCC every 2 weeks, right? So, no, in fact, sorry, we had two GCCs every week. Yeah, that's how fast we were growing. So GCCs are gonna grow up, and that's leading to a lot of heating up of the office real estate market. Large size deals of over 1 lakh square feet continue to drive India's commercial office market. They've accounted for around half of the grade A office space demand. So that's what's going on. We discussed, right? Yeah. GCC is projected to grow from 1800 to 2400 in 2030, by 2030. So that's going on. A lot of action as far as real estate, office real estate is considered. Moving on. Yoga Yatan Group moves NCLT to block Lavasa bid rerun. So, you know, again, a pretty legal kind of a thing. So, Lavasa was going in the bankruptcy proceedings, right? They were going to get a bid. Now they had a bid, and Yoga Yatan Group's bid got published. Okay, they had a bid, it got sort of approved or something like that, and then when bid got disclosed, the other people in the fray, they also revised their bids. Now what NCLT, what these people, the creditor committee of creditors are doing is they are considering everybody's bids with the renewed bid because they want the money, right? Now, Yoga Yatan says that this is not legally tenable because this is just against the process, right? We've got with the bid and our bid won. And now you're just considering people who just looked at our bid and are going ahead. So you know who makes money in these cases, right? We've discussed a lot about that. After years of delay, JP buyers may get keys to their homes in FY26. So JP Group's 10,000 homes were in the fray because the project was stalled. Suraksha Group has taken that, and they're gonna hand over the keys sometime because they're gonna restart the stalled process. The stalled projects are gonna get a rerun where they're distributing these stalled projects to different builders, not one builder not getting concentrated efforts of a lot of these buildings, and these people are gonna get home. So we wrote a very big case study on JP, on how that company fell apart because of political steamrolling, you know. So now the chapter is closing and JP is essentially out of the business world, so to speak, with very little assets to speak of. But their stalled projects are gonna get over, they're gonna get completed, and home buyers who had invested money in those homes will get some relief. But justice delayed is justice denied, right? So who cares? Of course, those people care, but yeah, very sad indeed. Moving on. Gift tax bias against same-sex couples to land in the High Court. So apparently, you can gift some money, or let's say you can gift some amount of money to your spouse, and that's tax-free, right? You can't do that if you're gay. So now gay couples are essentially saying that, hey, that's not cool, man. Same-sex couples, we should be having that gift sort of advantage as well. So that's weird. But speaking of what's not weird, government to boost maritime development fund to 70,000 crore rupees. Almost 2.8 times increase in the maritime development fund. Now, what did I tell you about this? Do you remember, folks, when we were talking about defense sector? And I said these analysts, like 12 analysts, all of those analysts said the defense is going to be weak for a year or so, and it's peaked out and so on and so forth. And I said, if I remember correctly, I said these people are not accounting for what's going to happen as far as government expenditure is considered, because the government has no option but to rake up that, to really raise the spend, right? And now maritime development fund has been almost tripled to 70,000 crores, right? Maritime fund means, what does this mean for Masgard Dock? What does this mean for Cochin Shipyard? What does this mean for Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers, GRSE? It means good news, right? And this is going to be reflective of what those numbers speak. So once again, just a month, and who came out right? We came out right. What's the time like? It's 8:41. No, it's not 8:41. It's the time to look into the future. Right? Right. So, by 2047, India's maritime sector will need investment between 885 billion to 940 billion, including 388 billion to boost shipping tonnage, green vessels 260 billion, and next generation ports. So it's going to be India to emerge as a global shipping and repair hub, to have a coasting and shipping share, and promoting cruise. India is going to have to make those investments. Right now, China has really taken over the world. China had two companies, and they merged those companies, those shipbuilding companies, and it's become the biggest shipbuilding company of the world. US used to have a lot of shipbuilding exercise happening, but they've fallen on the wayside. Japan used to be very good, but China has taken it over. Trump says, make American shipbuilding great again. But the fact is that nothing like that is happening right now. China is everywhere. China will complete a $16 billion merger of two state-owned shipyards to form the world's biggest shipbuilder, in a further bid to dominate ship construction globally. Right? So China, now the world's biggest shipbuilder, has taken over the industry, and India needs to fight, because India has a very big coastline, being a peninsular country. So good news for maritime stocks, and this news hasn't been priced in, by the way. So you're gonna look at something. Moving on. Demand for 5G spectrum amongst private enterprises weak. DOT survey. Telcos resist direct spectrum. So we've discussed this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how telecom operators didn't want this private auction to be happening, private distribution. for companies, right? While companies, the tech companies wanted it, and that debate is going on. What the department has said is that they're going to do a survey again. They're going to do a study again. That study, now what the tech companies are saying is that this study is just going to waste more time. It's already been established. Let's do it. And telcos are saying no. You do the study. The tech companies say that India is like 3 years behind the developed nations because of no private allocation of 4G and 5G. And the government says you could perhaps use 5G. But the counter argument is that if somebody can have their own 5G, they don't need to use the telcos. It's obviously bad news for telco. But it's not a commercial use, right? Let's say Infosys uses it and their own Wi-Fi. It can develop something on its own. It can develop new technologies. If it's dependent on telcos, it's not. So it hurts the innovation in a way. That's the argument of tech companies. But essentially, this conversation has looked at a delay. And where did that delay come from? Let's do another study. Because they say that private companies don't really want it, right? If there's no strong interest, and if there's just a bunch of very small number of people who want it, let's screw it, right? That's what's happening. Very interesting. Rice prices surge as Bangladesh lifts import duty. Bangladesh has had a duty on Indian rice. It's lifted that, due to which traders are looking at exporting rice to Bangladesh, which has led to a rice price rise, right, in India. So that's what's happening. Interesting. Vodafone narrows Q1 loss, names Abhijit Kishore as new CEO. Right? But Vodafone is a dumpster fire, a perpetual dumpster fire on steroids. So no good news is good news enough. Moving on, Indian Oil continues Russian crude buys despite US threat. Again, the person says we've not got a directive from the government. The government has neither asked us to stop nor asked us to raise the buying. So we're just going business as usual. You're not making special efforts to increase what we are doing, as far as Russian oil is considered. But we are happy, and their profits are pretty good. Strong marketing margins. Q1 net doubles to 5,689 crores. So this is why Team Trump was so against it, right? Net profit rose to 5,689 crores, up from 2,643 crores a year ago, buoyed by robust marketing margins. Improvement in net profit is mainly on account of higher refining and marketing margins being set off to some extent by inventory losses. So that's that, and this is why they were so angry. JSW Cement is public. It's debuted on the exchanges. It aims to be amongst the top 2 players. So Mr. Parth Jindal says that I can't sleep in the bed of my father's house if JSW is like amongst the top 5 or top 10 players. I need to be the top 2. So at the moment, who's top 2? Birla, I guess, Ultratech and Adani, right? Those are the top 2 guys. 1 second. Ultratech is the market leader, followed by Adani, I'm correct. So these 2 people are at the top. Then there are JK Cements, JK Lakshmi, there are other people as well. And now JSW. So JSW has entered cements. JSW has entered paints. JSW is looking at entering the car industry, right? The automotive play. JSW is really on fire, man. On fire. Nayara in talks with the government to sustain operations. By the way, Nayara is in trouble, of course, and it's all gonna look different basis what happens today. So very important day today. MTNL defaults on bond repayment due on August 24. Now, one of the worst companies of the world, called MTNL, they are in a perpetual state of fire. They don't make money. They've been losing money because, Babu's extraordinarily corrupt. Everything is extraordinarily corrupt. They don't treat customers like customers. They treat them like problems to be dealt away with. And all that has led to MTNL going to the gutter, and it's also now defaulting payments. Now the government had a very ambivalent stance on MTNL. It said we're going to save MTNL, but we can't also inject more money, because they're like $3 billion worth of default debt, something of that sort. They say that we want to save MTNL, but we also can't inject more money, which is also an oxymoron, because you can't save MTNL without injecting more money. Nobody's even gonna buy it. It's like Air India, but in telecom, right? So that's going on. Renew energy profit up. Let's move forward. Alcohol consumption is okay. Premiumization, despite strong duty, says Diageo. Premiumization is the way to go for alcohol, right? Moving on, as IPOs jostle for attention and money, some scale down issues. A lot of companies have scaled down their IPO issues because there's so much of IPOs happening from all sectors, from all shapes and sizes, from all industries. People are really going solid on the Indian public issue, paradigm. So what this means is more competition, and with more competition, people are looking at thinning their issues, right? So a lot of companies have decreased. JSW Cement, Ather, and all those people. They were looking at, they've reduced their IPO issue to at least by 30% or 40% in some cases, which is not surprising at all. Moving on, stock markets were up, but they fear what's gonna happen tomorrow. What do you think is gonna happen tomorrow? Can you guess what can actually happen? So as Trump says, this is the first meeting, and it's gonna set the course on what's gonna happen in the second meeting. Convincing Zelensky wouldn't be hard. Putin has all the chips. Mr. Putin has all the chips. What do you think is gonna happen today? Are they going to be successfully carving out a deal? Or is it going to be another delay that happens? Now, Trump says that they have a 25% chance of failing with this deal. 25% chance of failing. What chance do you think they have, not counting Trump's perspective? What do you think can happen? This is a very, very important conversation. Somebody who can bet on this in the right way can really make a lot of money, quite simply. I have had my prediction stated 2 weeks ago, and I said they're gonna sort this out, right? So let's see. I think it's gonna get sorted. It's gonna move forward towards that in a very, very clear and crystal way. There's not gonna be a lot of ambiguity as far as this is considered. No, that's what I mean. Moving on, India's sovereign rating upgrade may make borrowing overseas cheaper. Well, I already told you that. Top rated companies and NBFCs could save up to 20 BPS. 20 BPS, a BPS is 0.01%. 20 BPS is 0.2% in interest following S&P action. So, as I said, corporate borrowings, external commercial borrowings, it's gonna get cheaper. No surprise there. Bonds yield rise as traders pair bets on Fed rate cuts. So traders were thinking Fed is gonna cut rates, due to which the bonds had come down a little. Bonds yields have risen now that it's clear that Fed is not gonna cut rates because US inflation numbers are tight, right? Tight in a bad way. I mean, they're bad. So that's that. Muthoot show rubs off on gold loan peer. So we talked about gold loans doing really well, and Muthoot Finance doing really well because of the gold loan arm. Rising prices, gold prices, what they did was they led to a really big rise in gold loans as an industry, and people were very happy. Everybody was singing and dancing in the rain because gold loans have real good aspects as far as recovery is considered, right? And people generally pay off their gold loan, and once even if they don't, there's very very little chance of the gold loan turning bad, right? That was the play. Now Muthoot Finance obviously has like a 2 lakh crore book of gold loans, or 1 lakh crore, something like that. Yeah, maybe 2 lakh crores. And Manappuram, it's a competitor. Its stock price is also rising because of gold. Analysts flag competition and margin pressure. Scripts gain. Muthoot has risen 24%, and Manappuram has risen 38% so far, against 0.9% in Nifty 500 index. So, we talked about this, that gold loans, as uh, global uncertainty or geopolitical uncertainty stays at a head, gold prices are gonna stay ahead. And if gold prices stay ahead, gold loans are gonna stay ahead. And if gold loans stay ahead, Muthoot Finance and Manappuram are gonna gain. So I hope you use that. We talked about this like in one of the first 10 episodes. So if you use that, you would have gained some money. For the lack of a better word. But at least intellectually, you would have been simulated, right? So right now, all the federal banks, all the central banks of the world are stocking up on gold like never before, because Mr. Nassim Talib says gold is effectively the global currency right now. If it's not a currency of exchange, it's the currency of storing value. So this is also a very interesting phenomena, right? It's not used as a currency of exchange, but it's a currency of store of value. So that makes total sense. You can always count on Mr. Nassim Talib for giving you something extraordinary, right? As far as the whole play is considered. Moving on. Hind Copper profit source 18%. BPCL buys 10 million barrels of US oil. So look at this. BPCL is buying 10 million barrels of US oil via 5-month tender. Do you see geopolitics here? I do. July goods exports up 7.2%. Trade gap hits 8-month high. So Indian trade deficit is rising, despite exports going up, because imports are rising as well. So Indian trade deficit for this particular month was at $27 billion. We wanted to be, Mr. Piyush Goyal said that we're going to raise the exports to a level where we're not going to be trade deficit, but that is a distant dream right now. Some export supports, rare earth issue, everything. Exports slightly up 7.2%, but still not as green as before. Oil and gold drive 8.6% year-on-year rise in imports to $64.5 billion. Moving on, India set to set data standards for developed nations to follow. India will soon set the global standards and benchmark in India. Said we are now going to be able to set the benchmark for developed countries to follow. Data quality work worldwide, which is actually not just aggrandizing, by the way. So US has been talking about I've got to stop to acknowledge this comment. Mr. Tushar Tiwari says the PM might be giving an Independence Day speech now, and here I am listening to Thinker's Frequency. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Tiwari. That means a lot. I was also wondering, like, who's gonna listen to me right now, right? But thank you. There are like 6 people on YouTube, 4 people on LinkedIn. That is 10 people, as usual. So we were talking about data standards. We often think that Indian data is not good. Mr. Sabir Bhatia said that Indian GDP numbers are off, and he just gave a very dumb explanation for it, which was factually incorrect 100%. And then I wrote a huge post on why he was wrong, and then he commented on it. saying that, in essence, just bhavnaon ko samjho was his spiel. But India has been very, very good as far as data collection is considered. Mosby is doing a phenomenal job as far as data collection is considered. Inflation numbers are everything. Basically, they've been very, very, vigilant about these things. US, on the other hand, has been very politically inclined, right? So Trump just fired somebody who had like job numbers botched up. So the people, they first said that they generated 2.5 lakh jobs. Then they said, no, we only generated like 27,000 jobs. And people are like, you don't know how many jobs you're generating. That's the quality of your survey. So Indian advisor, chief economic advisor, says we are now going to be setting the benchmark for developed countries to follow, and so on and so forth. President Trump fired the labor statistics chief for publishing inaccurate job numbers, while India doesn't have those problems. So, good for India. Moving on. Wholesale prices dip further in July as food fuel costs drop. So, very interestingly, when US inflation numbers are up, India is facing a deflationary trend as far as fuel and food prices are considered. Deflation means that the prices start declining. Inflation is, of course, prices going up. Deflation means prices declining. While that might sound like a good news for you, for us, because we are buyers, it's not actually a good news. Prices shouldn't come down of let's say food or something like that. Why? Because the suppliers and the producers and manufacturers, or all that value chain guys, if there's an oversupply and deflation starts happening, those people start losing jobs, and that becomes a very, very big problem. Mr. Shantanu says good morning. Good morning. So deflation, negative zone for the second quarter, second straight month, which is pretty interesting, right? Food prices, fuel prices declining. Good news for users, but bad news overall. So it's good if inflation stays at like 1%, 1 to 2%. India's target has been roughly 4%. It's at 2.7% right now, inflation. Wholesale price index is going down, but inflation, if it stays in like 1 to 2% range, maybe 2.5%, it's good, very good. Below that, it becomes a problem. Moving on. Deutsche Bahn keen to run high-speed trains in India. Company to evaluate future rapid rail corridors. That's very good news. Law to regulate private job agency in works. This is a bad idea. So they're trying to regulate job agencies and private job agencies, the placement guys. They say that job seekers and recruiters and companies need to be assured of a good service, which is why they are regulating such a service. But the bad news is this service cannot be regulated. It's a very human-centric service. However, what they are trying to do is to curb the spam and scam in the name of placement agencies. So a lot of placement agencies essentially run kabutarbazi business, right? So that's what they're trying to curb. But we should push for deregulation. New laws is a very bad idea. Moving on. Ethanol blended petrol. E20 counting gains. India's transition to E20 aims to cut emissions, save foreign exchange, enhance energy security, boost farmer income. Issued in response, government assurances issued in response to concerns that E20 use reduces fuel efficiency, accelerates wear and tear, and could result in rejection of insurance claims. Here's a look. So they've done a lot as far as addressing the concerns. It's a report which we've discussed a lot in depth, like why E20 is important. Right now they're looking at E28, which is gonna be scary for old vehicles. So that's that. Brazil template, E27 ethanol blend in place for years. No significant issues reported in Brazil. By 2011, 83% of new cars sold in Brazil used flex fuel technology. So that's what India is also hoping, right? India wanted to, you know what happened with Delhi? They passed a law where they said they're gonna like stop giving fuel to cars older than 10 years and 15 years, petrol and diesel, and they have been trying to implement some sort of scrapping norms and so on. They've just been very very heavy so that new cars can get sold and old cars can get phased out, but that has not happened. But with E20 or let's say E28, that will happen because old cars will just stop running altogether, right? The wear and tear will be off the charts, and that's gonna force people to essentially buy new cars. Mr. Shantanu asks, suggest the best book you ever read. Well, that's a very complicated ask. Best book I ever read was Nirmala by Munshi Premchand. It was just extraordinary. It made me laugh. It was a tragic comedy. It made me laugh, but also made me cry, which is quite a, you know, how do you do that? Beautiful book. Moving on, Cognizant to roll out hikes for 80% eligible staff. This is in stark contrast to TCS, which has essentially stopped hikes across the board for a while and fired 12,000 people. Infosys also laid out a hike. So what these people are trying to do is like morale boosting, because if the entire sector starts looking gloomy all of a sudden, it's going to be very difficult for these people to hire and retain people, right? Because attrition is a very big problem in IT, and you don't want that problem to get screwed. Infi logs 5 to 35%, speaking of these manpower issues, Infosys logs 5 to 35% manpower savings from its new hybrid AI architecture. So Infi says that we are gonna help our clients have like 5 to 35% of manpower savings. So the model is like changing. They'll start helping people reduce their manpower. That's the sell. Flexible architecture helping clients migrate solutions across model. We believe there'll be a newer and newer model and techniques. So you're better off as an enterprise not trying one particular tool or model. So quite a shift, right? Quite a shift, but very important. Very important. Moving on. Firms seek right mix of human and AI to ace customer service operations. Customer service is obviously at the sword of AI, you know, and a lot of customer firings have happened. Customer service. There was a company called Dukan, and the founder was a moron, but he had raised a lot of money. Some sort of an, you know, quite a pedigreed guy, but an absolute moron. So what he said was, in a very boastful way, that we implemented a solution in 15 minutes and fired for 85% of our customer service people. Like, I'm like, you idiot. You know, you don't boast about these things, man. You know, you shouldn't. But he did that, and that's essentially a norm. Customer service operations are getting radically changed with AI. But with AI, comes slight customer dissatisfaction because people are like, we don't want to talk to an AI, we want to talk to humans. And so there's a mix of both. But essentially, the ground level, the bottom of pyramid queries have been automated. And then we're going to go up pyramid, and there are going to be fewer and fewer people in customer service, at least in less complicated, matters. So Cyient is going to be designing top spec chips. Trade war, critical minerals disruption yet to hit global chip production. Cyient, Hyderabad-based engineering company. Darwin Box has closed the $40 million round by Canadian OTTP, Ontario Teachers Pension Fund. So OTPP. And with that, we've covered everything going on in the world of business and finance, folks. What do you feel? The Independence Day episode, the 82nd episode. With this, we come to the end of the 82nd episode of Thinker's Frequency. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, I'm going to punch in anytime now. I wish you a beautiful day, personally and professionally. And I'm going to see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Take care, Mr. Tiwari and Mr. Shantanu. Thank you so much for joining, and everybody else who watched. and joined. Take care. Bye-bye. Happy Independence Day. God bless our country.